So seniors, this is Will Moss. He's our guest speaker today. He is a software engineer by trade, so we are his people and he is our people. So if you have it, please lock your computer. Please give him your attention. He's got a really positive, really good message for you. So, and make sure you pay attention because the more interactive you are, the better the better his presentation is.
Definitely.
So please be thinking of some questions as you go along. So.
Yeah. Feel free to interrupt me. We have about an hour or 45 minutes, something like that. Okay, cool. All right, so good morning. Is it still morning? Good morning, everybody. Like your teacher said, my name is Will Moss. I am here to talk to you guys to share my experience, share a little bit about my story, and my hope is that you all get something out of this because I'm here for you all. So if I say anything interesting at any time, feel free to stop me because I'm more interested in talking about what you guys care about than what I'm just sitting here talking about. But I want to give you enough information on my background so that you can ask some questions, right? So that makes sense? Okay, so let me tell you a little story. Like your teacher said, I am a software engineer by trade, but I'm also a business owner. So I run my own company right now. But before I started my own company, I worked in corporate America. So I worked for AT&T Bell Labs as a software engineer, and then I used those skills from software development to start a company. So you all are in a really good place to be in this class, to learn how to write code. Is a skill that has made me millions of dollars over the years. So go ahead. You want to ask a question? Software development, software engineering. So as a software engineer and a software developer are pretty much the same thing. The process of software development, however, can include the engineering aspect, the planning aspect, and everything from beginning to end, software development. So it could be an idea that you have at the very beginning to having a team of people that produce the software and deliver the software and maintain the software and everything. So that could be the software development life cycle, like the whole thing, right? But I like the fact that you asking me questions right out the gate because, like I said, I'm here for you all. So if anybody has any kind of question about anything that I say, please stop me, all right? Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about myself because maybe some of you all will relate to me and my story. And I want you guys to know that if you have a dream, no matter how lofty the dream might be and where you might be from or what your background is like, that through software development, software engineering, you can achieve some of your dreams that way. Because for me, 100% me choosing to be a software engineer led to me having a life of fulfilling some of the dreams that I thought I would have never been able to achieve in my life. All right. So a little bit about me. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I currently bounce around between here in Columbus, Florida, and also South America in Colombia. I bounce around because my dream was always to have a nice place to live. And then for me, instead of having like a mansion or something like that, I would have always preferred to have someplace nice to live where the sun is out, someplace nice to live where it's fun socially and the food is good, stuff like that. And then also to be around my friends and my family, which is here. So I'm from here. I went to high school at Walnut Ridge High School. I grew up pretty humble. Essentially, I like to say I grew up poor. And for me, what that meant was, while we weren't on food stamps or something like that, other than a birthday and Christmas, I wasn't getting anything that I wanted. So a lot of times, I remember, like, for example, when I was on a basketball team in high school, somehow, even kids that I thought were more poor than we were, somehow the kids on the basketball team had the basketball shoes. We had some Nike Air basketball shoes or something. I was the only kid on the basketball team that couldn't afford the shoes. And I remember I came home and I told my dad that I made the team and I said I had to get these shoes. And he was like, how much are the shoes? I was like, the shoes are $69. And he went off on me because the shoes cost $69. And I thought to myself at that time, I was like, you know what? When I grow up, the one thing is I'm not gonna have to deal with money problems. I do not want to deal with money problems. I do not want to be poor, and I want to be able to afford the things that I want. So I had this kind of thought process because that was like a reoccurring theme when I was growing up. I had this thought process of I got to learn how to do something so that when I get older, I won't have to struggle with money. So that became part of the reason why I ended up going into software engineering. But let me tell you the story about how how I got into software engineering. My first experience touching a computer. So one thing my parents were really good at, while they weren't really focused on having a lot of money or anything like that, they were really good parents, because one thing they did is one of their friends told them computers are the future. And so they were like, you need to have a computer in the home for your kids because computers are going to be in the future. So my parents listened to this friend of theirs, and they got a computer called a Commodore 64. Anybody heard of that? Commodore 64? Old school. So very old school. That computer is not like this, right? Where you have the CPU and the monitor and the keyboard. On the Commodore 64, it was the keyboard and the CPU were together, and you had to plug it into a TV screen. So that's how old it was, right? So they bought this computer, and they got it for us. And we were looking at it, me and my brothers, we were looking at it like it was a typewriter or something. We didn't know how you were going to use a computer. So it wasn't until, sorry, that's my wake up alarm. It's about time I wake up. So, and we can talk about that a little bit later too. So it wasn't until one of my buddies, I went over to his house, right? And we wanted to play video games. So back in those days, the only thing that I knew about to play video games was called Atari. It's like the old school version of an Xbox or something like that, right? It's called Atari. He was like, you can play video games on a computer. And I was like, what? We got a computer at the house, right? So how do you play video games on a computer? He's like, you got to have a hard drive, or if you don't have a hard drive, because we didn't have a hard drive, we just had the little computer CPU. He was like, you can write the programs to play the games and just play the games on your TV, on the keyboard. So I'm like, oh, word? So I can do that? Okay, cool. So I went home, I got the computer out, I plugged it up to the TV. In order for me to play a game on the computer, and I'm sure some of you are doing some assignments like this, doing video games and stuff like that on the computer. In order for me to play the game on the computer, I had to break open the little book, get the computer going, and I had to write all of the code for the game to play the game on the computer. And then every time I turned the computer off, guess what? It was gone because I didn't have a hard drive. We didn't know like what a hard drive was back then, so I couldn't save the code that I wrote. So I had to learn how to write the code. I had to learn how to debug the code, like if I had a typo or something like that. In order for me to play the game that I wanted to play, I had to write code, right? So this is how I learned how to write code, and I got good at it because I had to make sure it was perfect, or else I wasn't gonna be able to play the game. So I started learning how to use computers and to write code. My first interface was through playing games. You gonna ask a question? Yep. Bro, back then, I think it was something basic. I can't even remember, but we had something called Oregon Trail, right? That's when I was growing up. Oregon Trail was like the beginning. So everybody learned how to play Oregon Trail. So there were games, they were mostly like games where I asked you questions and stuff. And it wasn't a whole lot of graphics, because a lot of the graphics on the games that we play now, that's where the heavy coding is really for the graphics. But for something simple back in the day, was something like Oregon Trail, right? Okay, so I learned how to write code on the computer. Then the next level that kind of expanded my horizons and my idea about what you could do with computers, the next level was, everybody knows what the internet is, of course. We all use the internet. We're all networked now. But back when I first started getting on the computer, there was not like the internet, but there was something called bulletin board systems. Anybody ever heard of that? BBS? No? All right, cool. So I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna school you guys today. There's something called the precursor to the internet was something called bulletin board system. So before the internet, we had computers and stuff, right? You know what a modem is, all right? So modem, you can plug a modem into the computer, plug the modem into the phone line, and then the phone could do dial-up. Everybody heard of dial-up, where you got those weird noises and stuff, the computers talk to each other? So back when I first started, and this is something that made me addicted to computers, when I first saw a computer talk to another computer online. So my parents, somehow they got a modem. They didn't know what it was. Nobody knew what it was. But my buddy, the same buddy who told me about playing games, he was like, you can use the modem to dial to other people's computer in their house, and they'll have a bulletin board system, and you can download games. I'm like, download games? What is that? Yeah, you could pull the games over the phone line onto your computer, and then you could play like real games, not these little Oregon Trail type games. So like my dream game was like an NBA game that they came out with on the Commodore. I had to have it. So I plugged in this modem, I dialed up to basically it would be somebody's house with a phone line and a phone number. They had their computer connected to that phone line, and it would answer when your computer called, and then you could download. It would show you like stuff would come up on the screen, and it would show you like a menu system, and you can download stuff. So I started downloading. I became like a little hacker. I would be in the house, like getting on the computer. I would come home from school every day, and I would be all about downloading games. Eventually, I got a hard drive and hard disk. So the thing was, because of this experience that I had, like getting on computers and stuff and learning about computers, I got good at writing code. I got good at dealing with computers, but I didn't know that could end up helping me in my future. I didn't know that. I just was like a kid that wanted to play video games. So when it came time for me to graduate from high school, I had 2 older brothers and a younger sister. My 2 older brothers, really smart. I consider them smarter than me, right? But when they graduated from high school, my oldest brother, he had like a perfect score on the SAT and the ACT. He could have went to any college. He went to Ohio State on a full ride scholarship. But he could have went anywhere, right? But what I noticed is he went there, and within a year and a half, I think he dropped out. And when he dropped out, I was watching, and he was struggling. And so, like I said, I didn't want to be poor. So I saw him struggling. I was like, I'm not going to do that. Then my other brother graduated, and he didn't go to college. He just went straight to the workforce, but he was struggling as well, right? So I was like, I don't want to do that. So when I graduated, I just asked my parents, I said, Mom and Dad, what should I do? I don't want to struggle when I graduate. They said, go to college, pick a good major, and start a career, but finish college. So I was like, okay, I'm going to really try to do that. So I started applying to colleges. I went to a college called Hampton University in Virginia. And on my college application, I put, I want to study computer science or I want to study electrical engineering, because I was trying to think of what kind of job could I get where I could get paid enough to live off of and have like a decent life and not be poor. So some people would think I want to be a doctor. Some people think I want to be a lawyer. And so I'm like, okay, I don't want to be a doctor because I don't want to work like operating on people in a hospital. I don't want to be a lawyer because I don't want to be dealing with people's problems in court and people going to jail and stuff like that. I don't want to even see that. So I was like, engineer, I think I could be an engineer. I'm kind of good with these computers and stuff. So that exposure that I had on the computer led to me choosing on my college application to study computer science. So I put that on my application. I got accepted into Hampton University, and I ended up studying computer science. So I went for a 4-year degree. And for me, the theme in college was I had to study really hard because I didn't know how I was going to pay for school, and I wanted to get like a scholarship, right? So I ended up landing a scholarship. So we had some questions in our last class about paying for college and stuff like that. So if you got any questions about anything I talk about, feel free to ask at any time. But I ended up studying computer science. Go ahead. Hampton University in Virginia. Yeah. Hampton in Virginia. At the time, I didn't know it was an HBCU. You know what HBCU? Yep. I didn't know what an HBCU was, but I learned what it was. And I ended up, the company that I run now is a social network for HBCU. And it ended up being a pretty big deal. Grand scheme. HBCU, good question. Historically Black college and university. So a long time ago, based on the history of this country, not everybody could go to college and study at the college that they want to study at. So historically, there were some schools that allowed Native Americans and African Americans to study in college. Historic, because by the time I went to school, you could go anywhere, right? So I didn't know that when I went to the school. But when I chose the school, one of the things, whatever university you end up studying at, they teach you about the history of the college. So I learned about the history of the college. I said, oh, that's pretty cool. I wonder, are there other schools like this? And sure enough, there were. There's like 100 of them. So when I graduated from college, I wanted to start a website, like a social network for my college, so that I can stay in touch with my classmates. And the people that I work with that went to some other HBCUs, they were like, don't just create that for your college, create it for our college too. So I got enough of these of my friends that were saying, create the same thing for their school, that I created it for all of the HBCUs, and it ended up being a pretty big deal, right? So, and we'll talk about that a little bit as well. Okay, so what happened in college? Like I said, I went to school for 4 years, studied computer science. I didn't know how I was gonna pay for school. I got a little bit of scholarship money when I first started. I got an internship my first summer between my freshman and sophomore year. So if any of you all decide to go to college, definitely look at getting internships, because internships help me like develop and learn new skills in the summer. I got paid at my internships. And then I got picked up as a scholarship student by AT&T Bell Labs. So AT&T Bell Labs, I did 2 summer internships with them, and then when I graduated, I worked there as a software engineer at AT&T Bell Labs, making about $35,000 a year. So that's probably not a lot of money. What do you guys think is a good salary for a software engineer coming out now? Entry level. At least $85,000 is really good, right? I think it's good. So when I came out, I was making about $35,000, right? Which I graduated a long time ago, so stuff wasn't as expensive, but I had expenses, right? Coming out of college. So this is how I figured out I needed to make more money. I graduated from college. I got my job offer. I felt like I made it. I was like, I did it. You know, I graduated from school. I got a good job. I got my first paycheck, and I learned about taxes. Everybody know what taxes are, right? So break that $35,000 a year. Let's round it up to $36,000. You break that down to 12 months. So my monthly pay was about $3,000 a month. You take out the taxes, I'm left with about $2,000. My first paycheck, I wanted to buy something, because when I was younger, I could never, unless it was Christmas or my birthday, I could never have anything that I wanted. So I got my first paycheck, and I'm like, I want to buy a stereo system for my bedroom, with some subwoofers and all this kind of stuff, right? Have some tunes when I go to bed and stuff. So I bought a stereo system. It cost $800. So you subtract $800 from my $2,000 that I got paid, that left me with about $1,200 for the rest of the month. And guess what? I had a car payment. My car payment was $300 a month. So you take $300 from the $1,200, that left me with about $900 for 4 weeks. And I'm supposed to be a responsible adult with $900 left over for the rest of the month. I realized that if I wasn't staying with my parents, I stayed with my parents for 2 years after I graduated. If I wasn't staying with my parents, I would have been broke, because I would have had to pay rent and insurance or whatever else. So I realized I needed to make more money. So one really cool thing about you guys being in this software engineering class is I used that skill that I learned to be able to write code and write software. And I started dabbling in ideas that I had to make more money by creating some type of business, some type of software business. So that's where the idea came from for the social network, is dabbling in ideas with this idea or this skill that I had to be able to write code. I started creating different ideas in code, right? Now, the other thing I did is I realized, okay, maybe I can make more money by getting promotions at work. So you could go the route of being a manager or climbing the corporate ladder. And I ended up, I wanted to go the technical route, but I got to the point where I went to my manager to talk about getting a promotion, and I had been doing well. I got some promotions. I left the company, and I got to the point where I was making about $80,000 a year. But I came back, right? I left the company, I came back, they're paying me about $80,000. But I had a manager, and I'm talking to my manager about getting a promotion, right? To get to the next level. I had 2 kids, I was married at the time, and I was trying to maximize. And my manager told me in my yearly review, I told him I wanted to be the highest level of an engineer in the company. And he told me to my face that he didn't see it. So basically, he didn't believe in my potential. And I was kind of in shock. This was my first time having a manager that basically said he didn't believe in my potential. So that made me really start hustling on my side business, which was hbcuconnect.com, which is the business I was talking about that I started as a social network. So I really start working on the business. I took 2 weeks off for my winter break, and I wrote out the code for an online career center, because I started having all of these companies that would call me at work, and they were asking to put jobs on my website. And I went out and looked. You guys heard of Indeed, right? You can go on Indeed, you can apply for a job, but everybody that's looking for you on Indeed to apply to their job, they have to pay. They got to pay Indeed every time they put a job on. So I went and looked at the time. That was something new on the internet, online job boards like Indeed. That was something new. So I looked at that and I said, okay, I'm going to build that into my website so that the companies can pay to advertise and recruit people from these colleges and universities. And I wrote that code over my 2-week break, and that code ended up making me millions of dollars over the years to the point where I'm at now. Now, it didn't happen overnight. I had to build that code. The first year, I think I made an extra $8,000 a year, which was great for me because it was just extra money. And it's something I was doing for fun, writing this code on the computer. The second year, I think it made about $16,000 extra on top of my salary, which was about $80,000. So I think I probably made close to $100,000 or something like that. And then the following year, I went to that same manager that said he didn't see my potential, and I told him, basically I was ready to quit, and I resigned to run my company full time, and I went from making $16,000 a year with the company to having about 4 employees the first year, 4 or 5 employees the first year, and we probably made $200,000 the following year. Right? So all of that is possible because I sat here and learned how to write code. So you are in a position in this classroom to learn how to write code and to build things in the future that could change your entire life. So while I may have made $200,000 the next year. Now I'm at the point where my neighbor can be Dwight and I can. No, actually he is my neighbor. But all my wildest dreams have been fulfilled by the fact that I learned how to write code and I started a business. I always wanted to have a Lamborghini. So I've probably had 10 Lamborghinis at this. I probably had 6 or 7 Ferraris at this point. But the thing I'm most proud of, even though I've had a bunch of Lamborghinis and a bunch of Ferraris and a bunch of Porsches and stuff like that, the thing I'm most proud of is because of the business because I learned how to code and I started a business, I was able to buy real estate. So I have way more houses than I've ever had cars. And those houses end up making enough money to where one day I hope to retire and just live off of the real estate income. Yep. How did I get into real estate? It's a great question. All right, this is the point where y'all can start asking me anything. I had some good questions in the last class. They were asking me how much money I make, my net worth, and all that good stuff. So you guys can ask me anything. So the first question was, how did I get into real estate? So if one of the themes that came up in the last class was discipline. I grew up poor, so I didn't really know what to do with money necessarily, but my dad used to say, save your money, and he would be like, buy a piece of land or buy some real estate or something like that. But that's pretty much all he would say. And my dad never really had a whole lot of money, so I didn't get to see him do any of that stuff that he was talking about. So the way I got into it was I started making good money with the software company, right? And when you start making good money, like let's say you become a software engineer and you start making $180,000 a year, you might be able to save $40,000 to $60,000 in 1 year. You might be able to save, right? So you don't want to just throw that money away. Or even if you sit that money in the bank, the problem with me is I want to buy a car with it, right? Because I always love cars. So I knew I didn't want to waste the money on cars. So I was like, I got to put this money somewhere where where it will make it hard for me to get to it, but it can grow. So some of my friends were investing in like stock market. Some of them were doing a little bit of crypto, and like crypto just kind of came about after I got into the real estate stuff. But I like the idea, the timing came about. Okay, I'm gonna tell you the real story, right? When I got to the point where I could save some money and start investing some money, I had a condo that I bought, right? Like a little condo over on East Broad Street. I bought the condo for $140,000. The next year, I was ready to sell it and buy a bigger house. And the price went from $140,000 to like $100,000 in 1 year. It dropped. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Like, how if I was just willing to pay 140, like now it's only worth 100. So when I saw that, I thought that was fake. I thought that was like false. Like I thought it was artificial. So I had some money to invest. So I was like, if people are willing to sell their house, I wasn't willing to sell mine for that cheap. But if other people were willing to sell their house for that cheap, I'll buy it. So I started looking and I started finding all kind of real estate for super cheap, man. Like I'm talking houses that people paid $150,000 were selling for like $30,000 and stuff like that. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy real estate while it's cheap. So from 2010 to about 2018, I bought as much real estate as I could. Like I took all the money, like when I made profit from my software company, I took the profit and I bought real estate with it. So I ended up buying probably 60, 70 properties. And then I start selling them when the prices went up later, then I start selling them to pay off the ones I wanted to keep so that I could retire one day. So that's how I got into real estate. But it's all possible because what you guys are doing in this classroom. Like I wrote code. The code got me a good job. What I learned to do with the code started a good business. Then the money that came from the business, I put it into different stuff like real estate. But it's all because I learned how to code. Yep. How old am I? Take a guess. This is good for my ego. I'm 52. What? Yeah, I'm 52. Yeah, I'm old. I'm 52. All right, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. That's a good question. The thing about that is I've seen a lot of stuff over the years, right? You all are in a time right now. Like, okay, so for my time, it was this. My time was the internet came out right when I was graduating from college. That's when the internet came out. So I got to, as a software engineer and a coder, I got to think about ideas that I could use my coding skills on to apply to the internet opportunity. Because the internet ended up being the biggest thing in my lifetime, right? Now, for you all, it might be AI, right? AI just came about while you are in the stage right now where you guys are learning how to do stuff, learning how to code, learning how to leverage whatever tools are available. AI is a huge thing, and AI is going to make a lot of millionaires. So the thing to learn, like with the age that I'm at now, and the thing that I want to share with you all is that you have these opportunities like right now in this classroom with a teacher that can show you all how to do something that could change the rest of your life. And some of you guys could be millionaires off of the opportunities that you learn in this class that could be the next big thing in the future. Like a big thing, like the elephant in the room for me when I start talking about being a coder is AI, right? And I'm not one of those people that's like, oh yeah, AI is going to do everything and all that. I'm not one of those people. But what I do know is if you know how to code and you have an advantage over somebody that is just using AI code, because they're at a limit. They're limited by what the AI can do. Whereas if you know how to code, you can do more than what that person can do that only knows how to do prompts to an AI, right? So take advantage of being in this class. But yeah, that's a great question. I'm 52 years old, and I started my company when I graduated from college when I was 21. I worked in corporate America from 21 to about when I was 30, probably 30 years old, 31. When I was 31, I quit and I started running my business full time. And that was not easy. It was kind of scary, stuff like that. But I had dreams of doing bigger things and having Ferraris and Lamborghinis and stuff like that. So I took a chance on myself. But more than anything, I took a chance on the skills that I learned, that you guys learned in this classroom, writing code. Yep. Am I older? I probably am. I probably am. But so did you see? I call him Dwight. What do they call him? Mr. Carter. Do you guys know Mr. Carter? He works at like as an administrator in the school system, right? So Mr. Carter is my neighbor, and I do like once I start buying like the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris and stuff like that. For me to make sense out of it, because I grew up poor, it didn't make sense for me to buy a Lamborghini until I could figure out how I could make share it with people. Well, I share it. There's a way I do that. Yes. So the way I figured out how to share it was I started a YouTube channel, right? And I take the cars to different things. So I don't know if you guys were here. I brought me and some of my buddies. I bought Lamborghini here, Ferraris, some Porsches and stuff like that. The last 2 years we came here at the day, the culinary day outside. So yeah, we bring the cars here, and you can go sit in the car and check them out and all that stuff. I'm not sure. Julian. Well, I know one of the students, Dr. Roth or Mr. Roth said, yeah, he was like, I did like a mentoring day with him, and but yeah. So to answer your question, in order for me to make sense out of buying a car, I had to share it with people, because I'm thinking about the younger version of me. When I was young, I didn't know how to get a Lamborghini. I didn't know how to like have a Ferrari one day, because nobody around me in my neighborhood had anything like that. Like people were like food stamps and stuff like that. So when I finally got to the point to get the car, I was like, okay, I'm gonna show people how to get the car. So I created a YouTube channel to do that. Then when I started doing the YouTube channel, I started doing like going out and taking the cars out and talking to kids and stuff like that. My neighbor works for the school system here. So my neighbor said, why don't you bring you and some of your buddies, and some of my buddies, they're also like entrepreneurs, they're business owners, some of them are doctors, some of them lawyers, stuff like that. They got nice cars. And they said, why don't you bring them to talk to the kids here at the school, and we'll bring the cars. So that's how I ended up getting connected with the school, and then eventually Mr. Roth. So that's the answer to your question. What tips do I have for starting a business? And I'll stay here as long as you guys have questions, so there's no worries there. Some tips for starting a business. Okay, so the beautiful thing about what you learn in this class in the software is what's called a low barrier to entry. So that means if you wanted to start a clothing company, it has a higher barrier to entry, because you got to design the clothes, you got to pay for the materials, you got to pay a designer to design. It costs money. So that like most people don't have a whole lot of money to start a business. But for a software company, if you know how to code and you have a computer at the house or something like that, that's all you really need to be able to write code And so there's low barrier to entry. So my tip for starting a business is start a business with something you really know how to do. So for me, I knew how to write code. So I start playing around and dabbling. So the other tip would be just start trying things, because you'll find out what you're good at. You'll find out what people want. So like, I didn't know how I was going to make money with my company until I did like the website, and it was working and people were using it, but it was free. I didn't start making money until some companies started calling me on the phone while I was at work. And they were like, how, can we put our jobs on your website? And I'm like, yeah, you can put your job on my website, but there's other websites that make you pay for that. So I'm gonna make you pay for it, right? So, but I would not have ever got there if I wasn't trying different things. So I tried like to build this website. I tried other websites that like didn't really do anything, but try different things. Use the skill that you're good at, and then listen when people, because some people would have thought that was like a problem. Like I had a business partner who was like one of my best friends. I used to mentor him, like he was younger than me, right? And people used to call him all the time, because he had a website too, just like me, right? He had a website, and people used to call him and ask him, like it would be people in jail that would be like, can you put my story on your website? Because I'm in jail and I'm not supposed to be here. Like I need somebody to put a press release and tell people. Like people used to just do that, right? And then other people would call him like, I got this new album that's coming out and I want it to be on your website and stuff like that. And he would complain to me about it. He'd be like, man, all these people keep asking me to put this stuff. I don't got time for that. I was like, look, that's your customers, bro. Like if these people are asking you for that service, charge for it. And then that could be a business. So he ended up charging for that. He made millions of dollars. He made millions of dollars off of that. So just try things. Don't be afraid to try things. Don't have analysis paralysis. So don't try to analyze something and never do it. And then don't be afraid to put it out there even if it's not perfect. Because as you put it out there, people will start using it, and then you have time to perfect it and make it better over time, and then eventually you might make some money off of it. Yep. Okay, good question. So what you're describing is anytime somebody has an idea for a business, that's the question like to ask. Like what's gonna make my business go up and be successful versus somebody else? So that's when you have to think about what's called a strategic advantage. So like for my business, for example, my strategic advantage, like I started a social network that had the same functionality as Facebook when Facebook started after. I could have started and tried to do Facebook, right? And made it like general market, but I didn't have a strategic advantage over somebody else that was in Silicon Valley and connected with banks and had money, right? So I stayed in an area with my social network where I had a strategic advantage, is that I knew like my customers. I was the first to market. There was some things about me, my business, and what I knew how to do that gave me an advantage over somebody else. So if you start a website and you have an idea, you need to ask yourself, what will give me the advantage? And sometimes it's something as simple as you want to see it through more than the next person because it's a new idea and you're going to see it through. Or you might have a network of people to make something happen more than the next person. Or whatever the advantage is, that's what you need to be looking for. But the other thing you have to look for is who else is doing that idea. So if you have an idea to start a website and somebody else is already doing it, you got to ask yourself, what can I do better than them? What's going to be my advantage? And does it even make sense to do it if somebody else is already doing it? But if somebody has an idea, if you have an idea and nobody is doing it, like you could just start out doing it. The worst that could happen is you learn from it. You know what I'm saying? The worst that could happen is you learn from it. Like the guy I was telling you about who made millions of dollars from people complaining about because they wanted to put stuff on his website. He was complaining about it. He made millions of dollars off of that. But one thing I saw about him that I knew he was going to eventually have a website that hit is he kept trying stuff. So I knew right when I met him and right when he started asking me all these questions, like he used to call me, I would be at home. Like he called me at first because he wanted to advertise on my website. But then he had my phone number. He realized he had my phone number. He started calling me, asking me questions because he thought my company was like way bigger than it actually was. But anyway, when I saw him doing that, I saw that he kept trying things, and I knew if he kept trying different ideas, eventually he hit an idea that worked. Simple as that. And that's exactly what happened. Still happens. So good question. Yeah. Like other businesses that I've owned. Okay, so some other businesses that I've owned. So I'm talking mostly about the software company. There was actually another good question from the earlier class because I started a real estate company. So once I started buying the real estate, like you asked me, how do I get into the buying the real estate? I started a company for that, and I have an employee that's all she does is manages the real estate that I own. So I started a real estate company. I started the social network HBCU Connect, that's one company. Then when I created all of the software for that social networking company, as I started doing more business and having more customers and stuff like that, some of the customers couldn't believe that we created all this software, and they started asking us to create software for them. So I started another company for that. And it was a pure software company. And we would do software leveraging some of the other stuff that I created, taking little pieces of it, and they would pay thousands of dollars for the software. So I started a company for that. When I started my YouTube channel, I started a company for that. So wherever it makes sense, or something that could eventually generate some money, and it's separate from the other stuff I'm doing, I'll start a company. So like I just started a new company for something totally different because I saw the opportunity in logistics and transportation, and I had some people that can work it because I can't work everything. So I got business partners, and I do my part and they do their part. But the question that they asked in the earlier class was around, have I used my software skills to write software for the different companies I own? And yes, I have used my software skills. Like for my real estate company, all of the software that we use to manage all of the properties that I have right now and that I've had in the past, I created software to manage all of that, like to invoice and send reminders to people to pay their rent and all that stuff. So yes. Any other questions? Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I love that question. That's a question I didn't get so far today. A day in the life, like for me, right? So, and it ties into the question that he asked around how many companies have I owned, that kind of thing. So, I prioritize my time every day to the company that's making the most money. So the HBCU Connect company makes the most money, right? And then a lot of times the money from that I invest into the other businesses. So those other businesses then get a little bit of my time. But a typical day for me is, like, for example, today when I leave here, I got meetings, and the meetings are with my clients for the main company, HBCU Connect. What kind of clients are they? They're companies that are hiring people, and they lean on HBCU Connect because we have over 1 million people in our database that they want to hire for jobs. So, for example, I have a meeting today at like 2 o'clock with, have you guys heard of AbbVie, the pharmaceutical company? It's a big, giant pharmaceutical company. You guys heard of Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson? AbbVie is like Pfizer and Johnson. It's a pharmaceutical company. They make drugs of that nature. So I have a meeting with them today, and we're going to talk about our relationship of how my business is going to help them connect with talent from different colleges and universities and that are in my network. So we'll sit there and we'll talk for probably 45 minutes. And then after the conversation, I'll probably have to create a proposal to tell them how I'm going to get it done. And then I may ask them for a budget of anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000, or maybe even more than that. It could be $100,000 more for one contract with that company. So that'll be like my goal for the day, is to try to make $100,000, for example, with AbbVie. And then after that, I got another meeting with, I have to check and see. I have another meeting with another new client, right, that might want to talk about doing business. So a typical day for me is meetings and managing my team, making sure my team is getting stuff done. If it's the real estate stuff, it's just making decisions. So I have a person that runs the real estate stuff, and she'll tell me what's going on. She'll say, hey, we got to buy this stuff. Can you approve the budget? Or can you put some more money in this account to take care of the expenses? And so, like, dealing with stuff with the real estate company. And sometimes, if I'm lucky, I'll get to roll up my sleeves and write a little bit of code, maybe fix something on the websites or build something new on the website. Sometimes I run events. I do big events, like for these clients that I'm talking about, like Johnson & Johnson or Pfizer or whatever. I'll invite them to a big event, and then I'll invite a lot of people who are looking for jobs, and then we'll have like a career fair or a special recruitment reception or something like that. So do a lot of different things on a daily basis. Sometimes it's buying new real estate. So sometimes I'll be going out and checking out a new house, or checking out some land, or traveling. I have 3 properties in South America. So sometimes I go to South America and I'll be rehabbing properties and making them look like brand new, and then putting them on Airbnb, and then trying to make money with them on Airbnb. So all kind of different stuff. Good question. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes. I could probably do that. The only challenge is if it's local, it's easy. But a lot of times I'm doing them in like different states and different cities. Coming up, I'm bound to have something. Like if you wanted to get involved, I'll give my contact information to your teacher, and then we could see like what I have coming up. Probably one of the good things for exposure is when we come here and I bring people, maybe we need some help with that, and you can get some exposure to some people, because I do software engineering. But like some of my buddies, one of my buddies is a heart doctor, a real cool dude. You would have never thought that. He's young and everything. Another guy is a real estate investor. Another guy is he works on planes. Another guy is a former NFL player. Now he's doing like a technology company called Scalaware, where he's like building some kind of like suits, like space age type suits to help NFL players with their injuries and stuff like that. So you'll have exposure to people like that could be really good. But the short answer is yes, but it's pretty dynamic. Like, I don't know what I'm doing from day to day a lot of times, but sometimes I have big events, yeah. Please do, yep. Mm-hmm. For travel? That's a good question. The cool thing is I mostly set my own travel schedule when I want to go to different places. So and when I am traveling, most of the time it's for, like, if I want to buy some real estate, then I got to go check it out. So I bounce around to Florida. I bought some real estate in Florida recently, a couple of different properties, and buy it, sell it, whatever. In Colombia, the same thing, but I can go whenever I decide I want to go. Now, for my main business, which is HBCU Connect, this like software company with the social network, the travel with that, I have to kind of work with my customers and my clients, or I'll set dates to where I'm doing events in certain locations. And so I'll talk to the customer, so let me give you an example. Let's say I'm going to do, everybody heard of Microsoft. That's one of my biggest customers, right? So Microsoft, they're looking for software engineers, right? So when software engineers come out of college, maybe they've been working for a while, Microsoft wants to hire them. I'll find the right software engineers with the right skill set, and then I'll host an event for Microsoft in a location where I can find a bunch of those types of software engineers. So it might be in Texas, it might be in Atlanta, it might be in DC, whatever. And I've done like a lot of events. So I'll talk to Microsoft and I'll say, when is a good time? Because I need at least 45 days, at least 60 to 90 days, something like that, to create an event in DC. And then we'll figure a time to go meet in DC and have the event. So they'll fly their people out wherever they are to DC. I'll fly myself and my team to DC, and then we'll meet all of the talent and the people that are looking for a job with Microsoft. We'll meet them in DC. So I can plan a travel like that. I can plan it. But that's a good thing. Like, you guys heard my alarm going off earlier. I wake up around 11 o'clock in the morning because I work all night a lot of time. Because if I don't, I'll get so many phone calls, I won't get any work done. So I work like the afternoon, I'll do my meetings and stuff like that. I'll take a break for dinner or something like that. But then I'll start working again in the night where I won't get no phone calls. So I can, if I need to code, I can write code. If I need to write a proposal, I can write a proposal. If I need to answer emails, I get like hundreds of emails a day, customers and clients. I have thousands of clients. So good question. Ask her. What made me choose Colombia? Okay, so good question. So the question is, why did I choose Colombia to do business? So Colombia is the country, Colombia, not Columbia, Maryland or anything. So the reason I chose Colombia is because I have a brother that lives there, for one. Two, the reason I started investing in real estate in Colombia is because one thing I learned from investing in real estate is you look for opportunities, right? To buy real estate for cheap that will end up being worth a lot of money, right? So one thing I learned in Colombia is that they have a whole lot of tourism that's growing. So you got a lot of people with money coming from different countries to go visit Colombia. So I'm thinking Airbnb. You know what Airbnb is, right? Airbnb, people know what that is. So that's going online, and you can rent a house instead of rent a hotel, right? You can get a house. So I'm thinking I can get some real estate in Colombia for all of these tourists coming from different countries that have a lot of money to spend. And I can get cheap real estate as well. That's a key thing. I wouldn't have done it if the real estate wasn't cheap. So for example, I was buying a 2,000 square foot house, which is to try to turn, so you can understand how big 2,000 square feet is. That's like a 4 or 5 bedroom house here. Could be like 2,000. So if you buy a 2,000 square foot house here in Columbus, in a nice neighborhood, let's say the best neighborhood, because I was going for the best neighborhood in Colombia, in Medellin, Colombia. The best neighborhood here for 2,000 square foot, like 4 or 5 bedroom house would probably be worth, in the best neighborhood, maybe over $1 million or close to it. Let's say 800,000 or something like that, right? In Colombia, in the best neighborhood in the city, in the biggest city for tourism, I was able to get 2,000 square foot houses, 4 or 5 bedroom, for 140,000 versus 800,000 or $1 million or something like that, right? So when I saw that, I saw the opportunity, and I'm not afraid of taking risks and opportunities like that. So, and I have my brother down there as well. And I have visited a bunch of times and was looking at real estate all over the place. So I ended up investing in Colombia. I got 4 different properties. They all average about 150,000, and they're worth at least double that at this point in time after just a couple years. So I saw the opportunity and was not afraid to take it. Yep. The biggest gap, like money-wise, and time, like to do like rehab or okay, I'll give you okay, all right. So the biggest gap in money for real estate, for me, let me think about that for a hot second. I had some properties that I bought in Columbus for like $27,000 that ended up being worth, by the time I sold them, being worth close to $200,000. That's a pretty big gap. However, I want to say there's probably been more that have had bigger gaps. I built a house. I built a house here in Blacklit that cost me about $180,000 to build it, and now it's worth about $380,000. But I didn't sell it. I still rent it out. Time frame for something like that, it took years. Like it took years. If you wanted to make like 50 to 100,000 in a shorter time frame, like in a 1 year time frame, that's possible as well. If you bought like a house and fixed it up, and then you can make like 50 grand or 100 grand in a matter of 6 months or less. I've done that as well a couple times. Good question. Yeah, It's a good question. So I like the fact that you're asking a lot of questions, because what you guys got to remember is I'm here for you guys. So if you have any question, I don't care if, like, somebody in the last class asked me how much money I make. They asked me what my net worth was, and I don't have a problem sharing that kind of stuff, because I'm hoping that you guys can see what's possible from being in this classroom, like just learning how to code, right? So your question was, it's funny because I had an uncle that worked with me when I first got started, and he used to be like, how do you do it? Like, isn't this stuff like overwhelming and stuff with the email? And I was like, nah, like email is the best thing ever. That was like way back in a long time ago. Now I do get like, I get a lot. I can get so much email that I can't get through it all in a day. So that's a very legitimate question, especially when you run a business. And I'm getting to the point now where I feel like maybe AI is good enough that I want to use AI to manage some of my email and communications and stuff. But I have to grind it out a lot of times, because they're customers that are expecting me to answer them with my expertise. So the biggest thing I have to do is try to sort through stuff and figure out what's important versus what's not, and take that stuff that's not important and file it away. And the stuff that's important that I have to deal with, it gets left in my inbox until I deal with it, and then I try to move it out the way. But it's hard. Like, that's probably my biggest challenge every day, is getting through all the email that I get. Like, I got, for sure, when I sit back at my computer today, I'll have email Thursday and Friday of last week that I still got to deal with. So it's challenging. But the other thing is I got to hire people sometimes. You know, I have to get like more people. Just be able to look out. I got you. Yep. That's a good question. So there's been 2 scenarios where I had to travel for work and I didn't speak the language, and that was one in Spanish. So I learned Spanish. I took Spanish in school, but I really couldn't speak it. But over time, I decided to learn Spanish. So over the course of probably 2 or 3 years, I learned Spanish, and I can speak Spanish. And I use that all the time when I'm traveling Spanish. So I don't need a translator. I don't need anybody to help me when it's a Spanish-speaking country. But when I was working at AT&T, our biggest client was the Japanese phone system, NTT, and I had to travel there, and I had to work with them, and we had to have a translator. So I learned some basic stuff, like how to say hello and I need food and stuff like that. I need food and how to go to the bathroom, but I wasn't able to learn Japanese, that fast. Now, maybe if I had kept working there for a long time, maybe I would have learned more Japanese. But I think it's good. I think it's good to learn another language, at least one, and learn it to the point where you can use it. It's just because it's just going to be another tool for your future. Good question. Yeah. So if I go to another job event, like to hire people, that kind of thing, for what? Oh, okay, that's a good one right there. So I do events like Afrotech. So yes, I do. I take my business. So I'll give you an example. Like when I first started the company, I was like, how am I going to get my name out there to my clients? So I started going to conferences. There's conferences for everything. So if you ever started your own business, or you just wanted to get into an industry, you could find a conference for that industry, whatever it is, and you could go to it either as a participant or as an exhibitor, or whatever, however you want to engage, right? So I started going to a lot of conferences as an exhibitor for my company to find new clients. But I also would go to conferences like Afrotech, for example, and represent my company to find clients and to find people to use my service. as well. But most of the time, yes, it's my own events. Yeah, most of the time it's my own events. And the reason being is because we get paid for those events. So like something as big as Avertech generates millions of dollars the same way we would. I would have an event, I would have booth space for companies to come and recruit talent, and they would have to pay like $4,000 or $5,000 for a space, for example. So yeah, all of the above. Good question. Any other question? Yep. ¿Qué tú quieres que te digo? ¿Hay alguien aquí que habla español? Sí. ¿De dónde eres? Sí, de México. Ah, sí. Yo tenía que hablar español, tenía que aprender. Tengo 2 hijos. Sí, que mamá dominicana. Mis hijos, 25, 23. Por ahora están estudiando. Mi hija está estudiando música y mi hijo tiene autismo. So I had to learn Spanish. Just something. Yeah. My favorite artist. I used to do music. I used to do music big time. I was in the band in high school and I played the drums. I started rapping. I actually got pretty serious about it. a lot of us do that, right? But I had to make a decision though, because for me, I couldn't imagine being like on the road doing concerts and stuff like that. So I was like, you know what? I want to do this business thing. So I ended up doing that. But favorite artist would probably be somebody like a reggaeton artist, probably. Yeah, probably like Nicky Jams or something like that. Okay, so let's have a quick conversation about that. A lot of people want to do sports, music, be a rapper or a singer. A lot of people want to be professional basketball or football or something like that, right? I was actually pretty good at sports. I was pretty good at music. I got to the point where I was getting recognized internationally, but I'm a realist. So I had a cousin that was a professional drummer, and I was really good at drums in Columbus. But once I saw him play, I was like, okay, that's what a professional drummer looks like. And I'm not on that level. In order for me to get on that level, I know how much work it's going to take. And let me try my odds on something where I have an advantage. Like, just like your question earlier about when you start a business, you want to have a strategic advantage. So in life, you want to have a strategic advantage. So what are you good at in life? Think about it. What are you good at in life? And so for me, I was good at computers, better than the average person, because I was writing them little computer programs to play games. So I became good at it more than the average person. And I used that as a strategic advantage. So when I was looking at a career in playing basketball, okay, I'm good. I probably could have made the team in college. Like, I played with those dudes and they thought I was good, but I was like, probably not gonna make it to the NBA. Let's keep it real. I'm probably not. And if I was, how much work would it take? And then the risk of getting an injury and all that stuff, I didn't think I was gonna make it in that. So I was being realistic but it's way easier to become a millionaire and make NBA money as like a doctor where you got your own practice, or even a dentist with your own practice. It's way easier to do that because the only thing stopping you would be you, not your how good your knees are, right? If you want to be a multimillionaire, super rich dentist, richer than a lot of the NBA players, I know some that are dentists that own like dentist practices, and they started a bunch of them, and now they can do whatever they want with how much money they have. And the only thing stopping them is worst case scenario, they had to get some loans to pay for school. But they make so much money now, that stuff doesn't even matter. They could easily pay off the loans and give away money for people to go to school. And the only thing stopping them would be their decision, not how good they were at a sport or how good they were at rap or somebody putting them on, right, or giving them a contract. None of that. They just made the decision to go get a degree in dentistry, and then next thing you know, they started their dental practice, and then they started another one, and now they're like hundreds of millions of dollars and that kind of thing. And I saw that, so for me, I was like, I think I have a better chance of doing really well in software engineering than being a rapper or an athlete or something like that. I just was being realistic. But it was good. Yeah, I was getting recognized. What'd you say? No, I don't do it anymore. This was. Probably not, maybe. Yeah, probably a little bit, but not a lot. It was like when I was getting recognized for music, it was at the beginning of the internet when people started doing battles, like rap battles and stuff. So I was actually winning a bunch of competitions and stuff, and it started getting recognition. But I was like, okay, how realistic am I gonna be, like a rapper going on tour and stuff? And I got a degree in software engineering, and I got 2 little kids at home. I'm not about to be on the road like trying to be a rapper. It just wasn't me. Like, it just wasn't my dream. Now, what if it was? It's cool. Like, if that's really, but whatever it is you choose to do, whatever it is, like, don't let anybody discourage you. For two, you got to be a responsible adult. So even if you were following your dream, you should at least be able to take care of yourself so that you're not a burden to somebody else, like your parents or family members or something. So that's two. But three, it may take a lot of hard work, whatever it is, right? So why not choose something that you're good at so that you have an advantage towards all that hard work you're going to put in, right? So play to your advantages, but don't let anybody discourage you if you have a dream of doing something either. You had a question a little bit earlier? Okay. Now I could do that, but before, when I was building, I wasn't bouncing around like that. Yeah, it took some time for me to build, but now because I built and I was patient. Like you guys asked me how old I was. Was that this class or the last? See, I'm getting old. I can't remember what class it was. So I'm old, right? So I've been doing stuff for a long time. So like when I first got started, 22 years old, 21 years old, I was working a job, a normal job for like 10 years. Then I started my business and I'm on the grind with that for 10 years. And it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I started like actually having fun doing different things and traveling a lot for fun and stuff like that. But with patience, you can do that. A lot of hard work. Good question. So the question is, do I invest? And if so, what investments have been the most profitable? So yes, 100%. So once my business started doing well, up until my business started doing well, I was investing all my time and money into the business. Once the business started doing well, I got to the point where I saved about $300,000. And I knew I had to invest it. And at that same time, he asked me a question about the real estate and how much I paid for real estate. So I took that $300,000 and I put it all in real estate back in like 2011, 2010, somewhere around then. And that's done the best for me, like real estate investments, because I was buying stuff for $20,000, $27,000, $35,000, $50,000, $90,000, $80,000. Almost everything at the beginning was less than $100,000. And all of those properties are worth over $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. So that's what I invested in for the most part. And then I started a business doing real estate investments and a whole thing where it could stand on its own. More recently, as those real estate investments are doing well, I started, like, there's this idea of diversifying your money and stuff. Right? So the reason people say diversifying is good, that means basically having your money in different places so that if something bad happens in one place, like let's say the real estate market crashes, then okay, maybe your money is down for the moment in the real estate, but if you have some money in the stock market, maybe that's going up right now. Or maybe you have some money in crypto and maybe that's going up right now. Or maybe you have some money in a business idea and maybe that's going well. So the idea is diversifying, having money working in different areas. And so for me, the first thing was real estate. The next thing, I always had a little bit of money in the stock market, but not as much. But I'm doing more of that now. And then now the new thing is crypto. So I don't have a whole lot of crypto, but I'm starting to get a little bit more crypto. But yeah, I mean, investing is important. Like investing is important. As soon as you start making some money, you want to have that money working for you through some type of investment. So that's a great. Anybody else? I'm here for you guys. You guys can ask me anything. I'm here for you guys. Yep. Favorite food? Probably like Japanese hibachi or something like that. I love that. I love Japanese. But I like, Japanese. He woke up on that one. Yeah, I love Japanese hibachi. I love Mexican food. There's a lot of good food in Columbus compared to like all over. The funny thing, every place I've been in the world, Columbus has the best food. Cause you can get any kind of food you want and it'll be good here. You can go a lot of, like I go to Orlando a lot. I go to like Columbia a lot. And Orlando, you could find the same kind of restaurants that you could find here, but the food won't be as good. And some other places like in Columbia, they might not even, they just now got like a hibachi place, or they just now got a couple of nice Mexican restaurants, and it's not going to be as good as it really good. It's a good question. Do you want to be an entrepreneur? Seems like it. Okay. So the question is, when I do real estate, do I have someone scout out the property for me or do I do it myself? Most of the time I do it myself. The couple of times so far that I maybe lost money was when somebody else did it for me. Now, I didn't lose money yet because I still am invested, but if I was to lose money, it would be some properties that I did not scout myself. But it's not that hard to scout real estate. It's just like going shopping. So like if you go shopping for any kind of thing that you like some people like, let's say you want to get an Xbox for Christmas and you're trying to help your parents by finding the cheapest one. So you'll go online and you'll shop. The best place to find an Xbox is eBay or Amazon or Best Buy on Black Friday or something like that, right? So you will go online and you will shop and you will find the best place to buy an Xbox in the best time, right? Real estate is the same thing. There's websites like Zillow, Realtor.com, Redfin, a bunch of websites that you can go to and you can find houses. So what you have to do is you have to categorize. So I broke it down to the most easy way when I started investing in real estate. A house is like, a category for a house could be like, is it a single family home, like by itself with no attached neighbors? Or is it a condo that's attached? Is it an office building, right? So you categories. Okay, so I want to buy a house, right? Standalone house. All right, so that's my starting category. Then the next thing is, how many bedrooms and bathrooms does it have? That's how you can compare it to another house. And then how big is it? How much square footage it has? And then how much land it has. So those basic little things about a house, it's just like if you was looking for the Xbox and you had the Xbox S and the Xbox X or whatever, and one of them has more gigs of memory and the other one doesn't. It's the same thing with a house. One of them has more space, square footage, and three bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and the other one has 2 bedrooms and 1. So you want to compare houses that are like the same. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 1,800 square feet, 2,000, whatever. So then you can start getting the pricing of houses of that size and compare them to other houses of that size in that same area, like zip code. Then you can compare them. If they're the same in those size and zip code, you can determine which one's a good deal or not. Because that's the number one thing that people care about when they shop for a house, is how big it is and what it looks. So once I understood that, then I could just go online and pick a zip code and look for a house of a certain size and then start shopping for the best priced house. I'll give you an example. The last deal I did like this, when I went shopping for a house, I wanted to buy a piece of land because I wanted to build an office in Florida. So I started shopping for land. So I started looking for land that was about 2 acres. It's a pretty decent sized piece of land, right? You could put probably 2 or 3 or 4 houses on that, right? So I started looking for land for 2 acres, and I just went searching in a zip code in Florida for 2 acres of land in that zip code. And I just started looking for which one had the best price. And then where exactly is it located? And why is it that cheap? So I started calling, I found a cheap one. The average price was like $200,000. I found one for $80,000. So I'm like, why is this $80,000? I get on the phone. It's an older gentleman who was gonna pass away. And he wanted to sell it so that he could get the money to his kids. And he wanted to sell it quick. Okay, cool. That's nothing wrong with this. It's not gonna be like in a flood area. Boom, boom, checked everything out. I bought the land for $80,000. I held it for about 6 months. And I realized I didn't want to build my office there. So guess what I did? I turned around and put it for sale. But guess what I sold it for? After I bought it for $80,000, I sold it for double, for $160,000. And I sold it like probably within 45 days, something like that. So by me just buying that piece of land, by going shop, I bought it and then I turned around and sold it. I made $50,000, $60,000, probably more than off of just going shopping. So investing, you're asking the right kind of questions, like investing is yep. That's a good question. So I'm a software engineer by trade. So I didn't go to school to learn carpentry or anything like that. But I did, when I first got started, I might go in and do, in one house, I might do the floors. In one house, I might paint. In one house, I might help with the cabinets in the kitchen. In one house, I might help with the granite. And I did a little bit in each house. The reason why I did it is because I wanted to know how much I was willing to pay somebody to do it based on how hard it was. So like the biggest thing people get you on, like when you're building houses, is plumbing. And so I found some people that would do plumbing for me for cheap. They're just friends of mine who do plumbing work. So I've done it before, but I don't do it on a normal basis. I don't do it. No, I don't do it. If I had to, I would, and I know how to like do a lot of stuff, but it's not my passion. I do like owning real estate though. I like calling shots and paint it this color, put this floor in there, make the kitchen look like this. I like that. That's fun. But to actually do the work, only time it was fun to me is when I had all of my buddies in there and I'm like paying them to help me and they can make a little bit of money and we're in there listening to music and joking and stuff like that. That's fun. But no, I don't normally go in there and do it, but I've done some of it before. It's a good question. Go ahead. I will hire contractors. The only employee that I have full-time is my property manager. And when I'm doing the stuff for the main business that makes the most money, she's doing everything related to the house. She just asked me for like to make the decision on money stuff. Real estate. For HBCU, I have employees. No, I have employees for that. Yeah. I've had the most employees I've ever had for HBCU Connect's probably 17, something like that. Woo! That's a good one. So the question is, how do taxes affect income? Because in the last class, they asked me how much money I make. They asked me my net worth. So the best year that I had, I made $5 million, right? So for me, that's really good. But it's a business. So if you make $5 million one day in a year, you're gonna have to pay taxes on it. Anybody have a guess how much taxes you would have to pay on $5 million? You said 37? It can be, yes. Yes, it can be as high as 30 to 40% depending on how your business is set up. So in my case, my business is set up as an S corporation, and I think my tax rate is between 20 and 30%. So if you make $5 million, first of all, you got to take out your expenses. So like in my case, I have salespeople. Salespeople make the most money in my company. 30% goes to the salespeople. So 30% of 5 million, 3 times 5, 1.5 million. So you take that right out. Then what you're left over, then you got to pay the other team members that are not in sales. It might be another 1.5, right? So then you're left with maybe 2 million and you take taxes out of that. So 30% of 2 million, 600 on the low side. But I've had years where I've paid over $1 million in taxes. It's a lot. It's crazy. It's hard, but I mean, it beats going to jail, right? You got to pay your taxes. But then you start hiring. Then you start thinking about things like hiring accountants, hiring lawyers, and hopefully you pay them less than what you would have to pay if you overpaid in taxes. So then they help you organize your business the right way. They help you do your bookkeeping the right way. They help you deduct things from your taxes that are legal to deduct. And they're professionals, and that's what they do. Whereas I'm not a tax professional, so I could end up messing it up and then get audited. I've been audited before, and they will come and check like everything you record in your taxes and make sure it's correct. And anything that's not correct, you end up owing them money. And sometimes it's with interest sometimes. So I had to learn all that kind of stuff doing business. But if you ask me if it's worth it, the short answer is yep. You know, I would do it again for sure. So good question. Taxes are serious. Yeah. Basketball in high school, Warner Ridge. Yeah, on the east side. A what? Euro? A Euro money? Oh yeah. I love euros. Yeah. All the time. Yeah. I put a lot of my friends on the euros. Yeah. Yeah. I'm ghetto, so I say gyros. Euro, yes. Love them. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's hard, man. For me, that's the hardest thing I've ever done in business is have a team and manage a team. Because I'm the type of person I like to do all the work. Just give me the work, I'll eat it up and spit it out. But in order to grow my business and help my customers, I had to hire people. So unfortunately, the flip side of that is sometimes you get the wrong people on your team and you have to let them go. And for me, that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do is let people go. Yeah. But it's part of doing business. And usually if you communicate well with people as you go, you can let them know what you need. And they by the time you have to let them go, they know that maybe they can't provide what you need and they already know. So fortunately, I haven't had to do that a lot, but it has happened. Yeah, that's a good question. That's the same question I got earlier. I look for people that have initiative. People that if I give them an assignment and maybe it doesn't have that much detail in the assignment, they can not only tackle that assignment, ask the right questions to fill in the blanks, and then take the initiative to not only complete the assignment, but look at the things around that assignment that might need to be done next, right? So initiative. So the difference between somebody that has initiative that I would look for is the person that gets done with the job and then they just sit there and don't do anything, or they get on their phone or something, right? Or a person that once they finish the job, they either ask for some more work or they just start doing more work that they see needs to be done. Like I was the kind of employee where I would try to hurry up and get stuff done, and I would always be asking my boss for more work. You know, I wouldn't know what to do in that when I worked in corporate America because there was so much stuff and I didn't want to break anything. But that's the big thing I look for: initiative and people that take stuff serious, right? Because if you get a job and you get paid to do a job, the bare minimum is act like you want to be there. So like when I had my job, I consider myself a paid actor. Like I wanted to be the #1 employee. I'm getting paid to be here. I might as well try to be the best. So I took my job seriously and I appreciated my job and worked it as long as I could. I learned from it, and then eventually I started my own thing. If not, I got to run to a meeting. But I appreciate you guys. You are in the right place to learn. Like software engineering is a great career path. I think it still is the future. Knowing how to program computers and give computers instructions, whether that's through AI or nitty-gritty coding. So take advantage of this opportunity to learn. You have a teacher that cares about, obviously, your future, as he invited me here to come to talk to you guys. So I'll be happy to come back anytime. And thank you for the opportunity. Thank y'all. Matter of fact, if I come in the spring next time, I'll bring some cars. Bring some cars you guys can check.
So you're thinking about joining my channel, or maybe if you haven't thought about joining my channel, maybe you should, because channel members on my channel get access to exclusive content with exclusive cars, like this here Lamborghini Revuelto, like this here Ferrari F8, like this here behind me Lamborghini Huracan Technica, or even the Porsche almost said a new car that I have on the channel that you guys don't know about. But this Porsche 911 Carrera T, the RS3. All of the videos that I upload on this channel, my channel members get to see those videos first as soon as I push them out, and then they're released on a schedule. I already have about 10 videos lined up that only my channel members have access to. If you're considering joining my channel, now's a good time. I definitely will shout you guys out. I'll answer your questions in my live stream with priority. Yeah, so hey, join my channel subscription through YouTube and get access to exclusive content just for you and early access to content that I release on the channel, sometimes as early as 2 or 3 weeks in advance. So yeah, if you want the loose scoop, I got 2 cars that I haven't even released on the channel yet. So stay tuned, hit that join button. Hey, and join the exclusive section of our membership on the channel here on YouTube. Peace. Here with another video on how to turn $7,000 into over $100,000 in one single real estate investment transaction. You'll learn not only how to do flips, but also you'll learn the benefits of buying and holding and owning real estate for the long haul as rental properties. So what do you do when you're interested in investing or spending money on something, or spending time, energy, and money on something? You study. You know what? I can buy these houses for cheap prices and then rent them out, make a profit on them. And then it'll just be another business. So if you don't already own a home or own a house, you should buy a house that is a good house that will turn into a good investment. Yo, what's up? It's your boy Will Motivation, and today we're talking about my advice on the #1 way for you to get started investing in real estate.
It's the one and only Floyd Money Mayweather. I'm here to tell you guys to go to Will Motivation. The exotic cars is crazy. I've been watching this show for a little while now, and it's growing. But we need everybody else to subscribe to Will Motivation and support Will. I'm supporting him. You do the same.
Welcome to Will.